Silent intro. Alright, I got something interesting to share with you guys. So, mainly because you fucking pieces of shits. You guys got me into like learning how to like mess around with fucking DaVinci, right? So, yeah, I had been thrown into the dines to like learn how to use the damn shit. And like, honestly, I'm glad, to be honest, because I'm actually liking DaVinci a lot. There's still things I'm like getting used to, right? But the more I'm using it to like edit my videos, the more fun I'm having with it, the more I'm starting to understand it, and the faster I'm starting to edit with it, right? There's still a lot of things about it that I need to like get used to, and I wish they can improve on, right? But from the looks of it, they are working on it consistently, and that's the cool thing about Blackmagic Design is that DaVinci, it's not like fuck it, that's good enough. It actually seems to keep adding shit to it, so that's pretty cool. And before you guys give me shit, yes, I know I haven't activated my Windows. Why? Because I have like no real reason to. So yeah, go ahead. You guys can fuck with me all you want just because I haven't activated my Windows. I don't care. Fuck it. Hey, so I'm gonna play some audio and just keep an eye on this, right? So I got audio track 1, and then you have your bus 1. So if you don't know the difference quite yet, simply put, your audio tracks here, these are measuring the meters, like the volume, which is basically the audio from my camera phone, right? When I was speaking into it. So that's like the audio coming from that footage itself, right? The bus here, basically it's all these footage. Say if I have music, sound effects and all that, they all get sent out to like the main bus. What you hear in the final render of the video is going to come out here, right? Now if I play this back out and walk around with, right? I seen people walk around with... Okay, so by itself it's pretty fucking loud already, right? So I'm just gonna like, crank this down a bit. Usually I go to simple peak program. Let's just go to -2 just for now, normalize, just to make it smaller, right? So it's a fucking pain in the ass to film with my phone. That way, my ears are not exploding. Another cool thing I discovered about DaVinci is that, like, as you're playing it, I have a gimbal, and I usually been like, if you want to like have like don't want to mess with the volume too much, instead of like reducing like the volume of your headphones, you can actually click on this here, which says dim. I go to these events, I'll like, pull out my phone, I'll fucking attach it to the gimbal, then I'll walk around and film and all that, and like it's really a fucking pain in the... Yeah, it basically reduces it by like 10 decibels, right? So that way you don't have to mess around with the volume on your headphones. That way you can still have like an accurate reading of your meters here. Yeah, and it's very cumbersome, right? I just didn't feel like doing that, to be honest, right? Alright, cool shit. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're editing. Like that way, like, you can still have like the meters reading out like the right values that you want for loudness on your audio. But also, you're not fucking up your ears, right? That being said, so here's my video, right? I uploaded it to YouTube. Now, if I play it, working with them, yeah, he paid me per video, right? But actually, there's something I just discovered. If you right-click on the video, right? And then you go down here where it says stats for nerds. You can get like a little window here on the side where it says volume and normalized. So you can have two numbers. You're gonna have like 100 and 93. So basically the volume where it says 100%, that's basically this guy down here. So if I reduce the volume, I'll say right here, it got reduced down to 15%, right? And then loudness, it kind of lets you know like where it's at also. At the time I was like working between whatever, so we just put this back up 100 because that's what we want, right? Now what I want to show you is this, where it says normalized, where it says content loudness. If I hit play, actually 3 jobs, I was working with Paul on and off, right? So basically the max level that you want on your audio is gonna be at 0, right? When you're watching the meters of like, say something like DaVinci, right? You got 0 here, right? So basically anything past 0 gets distorted and it doesn't sound good, right? So you want to be underneath this level so it doesn't get distorted, right? If you go back here, basically it says content loudness 0.7. So with this video, I went over that 0 mark on the audio meter. So that means it got reduced to 93%. So what that means is that basically my audio was a little too loud past that threshold of 0. So it got reduced down to 93% from 100, right? So basically, in other words, I went too loud for YouTube standards because I guess they have a certain threshold that they want you to keep, right? And that's something I learned, right? When you watch TV and like the movie is at a certain volume, and then when it jumps into fucking like a commercial, like the volume sounds louder, right? So basically you have like there are 2 ways to measure audio. Well, there are many, right? But you have loudness and you have volume. And they're 2 different things, right? Loudness is basically how loud the video is overall, like on a consistent manner, right? That means like dialogue, explosion, music. There's an average of how loud that video is overall. That's called loudness. Volume is basically how much power you crank up the overall sound of the video, right? That's volume, right? You know, when you hit the volume up, you turn it up, that's volume. It's totally different, right? So basically the one thing you want to keep in mind is that YouTube has a loudness level that they want you to keep. So if we go to here to like what volume should my audio be for YouTube, it says here YouTube normalizes the streams to audio level to -14 to be -11 or level 13. Now, if you guys want to get really into like the whole audio thing, look up something called LUF, L-U-F in audio, right? And basically that's loudness units relative to full scale. Basically, it's like a way how they measure loudness in an overall video, right? If we type in like YouTube LUFs, what is the LUFs for YouTube? They say the guidelines, they want you to aim for -13 to -15. So basically what that's saying is that when you're making your content for YouTube, they want you to be a certain peak level of -14. For TV broadcast, they're usually at -21, right? Actually for TV, they actually have like strict guidelines. If like you don't follow those like loudness meters, you can actually get fined from my understanding, right? But for YouTube and the internet, it's totally different, right? So they want you to be at -14 to make sure all the videos are normalized, right? So like I showed you here in my video, my loudness level was a little too high, so it got reduced down to 93%, right? Now let me show you what happens when you're too low, right? Now for this example, I'm gonna go to one of the videos that my buddy here, Coalition Gaming, did. You know, this ain't to like talk shit or anything like that. I just like discovered it, so you know, also trying to give my homie here some exposure with 10 people that follow my stuff. But if I listen to his video,
anything, you can do that. Point number 2, you can use these as sort of a main light, whether it's a streaming set.
All right, so we compare that loudness to my video. On and off, right? He'll give me like one video either once a week or once every other week or something like that. It wasn't really consistent, right? I was working in construction with my dad. All right, so we compared the loudness overall. My video sounds a bit louder compared to his video, right?
Setup or like an on-camera vlogging light. It does come with a little cold shoe adapter for you to mount it directly onto your camera.
Still, like during the day, and then on the weekends I had the graveyard shift of fucking working at Walgreens. So you can hear there is a difference, right, between my video and his, right? So if again, if I right click on his video and I go down to stats for nerds, if we go here to like the volume and normalize section, content loudness -13, you're actually -13 below the threshold that YouTube wants you to be at, right? Basically what it's saying here that like the loudness is -13, so that means you are able to boost up the audio a little bit more, you know, for the next video, so keep that in mind. So in Fairlight, we go down here to like the settings, the project settings little wheel here, click on that, and then you click on Fairlight where it says audio metering. There's a target loudness level. By default, this is at 21 because that's designed for TV, right? We actually want to like set this to what YouTube wants, is down to -14, right? Or in this case, up to -14. Now, this is what YouTube wants at -14 to be at the loudest. Something that I learned is that if you're gonna be doing a lot of like voice chat, like I'm doing, -14 is a little too loud. Maybe you could go down to -16. That was like 2 decibels low. That way, like the audio is not too distorted, right? For the bus meter alignment 0, that's gonna be the max at your meter level. Bus meter high, basically this is where like the audio starts to like show you where it starts to turn yellow and red. So in this case, like if I play, if we go to Vegas or Taiwan, either way, so you can see between 20 and 10, it turns yellow, right? Just be like the same flat rate, right? So yeah. So anything past -10, it turns red. For me, that's fair because, like I said, I just didn't want to fucking work. So you can actually change that with these guys if you want. In this case, say like the low level where it was 20, anything past -20, that was a yellow, right? So I'm just gonna crank that up to -10. This is just for me, and for like the area starts to turn red, I'm gonna turn this up to like -5. You know, again, that's just my preference, right? Him like paying me salary, it helps me to be more available to help him, not only in okay, again, this is just my preference, right? But the thing that you want to do is that when you go to the project settings, you want to set the target loudness to -14, or in my case, I want -16 because I don't want it to be too loud. Because like I showed you here on my video, I was way too loud, so I got reduced, right? So I'm just gonna go to -16 to make sure I don't, just to have like 2 decibels from being too loud according to YouTube's LUF levels, right? So -16, I'm okay. So yeah, if we go to Fairlight. So this is where things starts to get a little confusing, and like you have 2 meters here. This is like the loudness meter, right? But like, you know, say like in this case, you know. Now if you go here to the loudness, this meter basically is gonna help you like define what is loud, right? According to like the settings that we have for Fairlight, right? We want to be at -16, right? So for the, if I click on these 3 dots, these are basically ways you measure loudness, right? From my understanding, you know, you just want to stick to 1770-4. That's basically what you want, right? it gives us like the most recent like way to measure audio. Again, I'm not an audio expert, but that's just from what I've been learning. You want to make sure you're on absolute scale, so we can see that, you know, the negative 16 is right there. And the lock metering and transport, from my understanding, you want that on. Basically, when you are measuring the audio and you stop, these kind of stay at a certain like level, right? Right, and you know, there's been times where it gives me the shit that he asked me to do on mid, right? And, you know, so you're able to reset this just to start fresh, right? If you want to measure the audio. So basically, this thing, the metering, all it does is that this option automatically kind of resets everything every time you stop and go. It just resets for you automatically. That's all it does, right? So have these guys selected and select the 1770-4 for your loudness meter, right? So now we have like the negative 16, right? Remember, YouTube, they want to have a loudness level of LUF at negative 14. I selected negative 16 just to have a little bit of headroom. That way, in case I go a little past negative 16, I still have a little like headspace, so I won't clip according to YouTube standards, right? So you want to hit start. That way, like the audio starts to analyze how loud your video is. Hit start. The deal on mid, right? And you know, there's been times where it gives me the option, hey, if you want to come over, you can. If not, you can stay home or whatever. But for the most part, because, you know, I like helping them. And all right, so what's going on here? Probably like the main thing you want to look at is this option here that's called the integrated. Now, the integrated is basically a way of saying average overall, right? So basically, it's measuring the overall average of how loud your video is after an extended period of time, right? So you want to have this on consistently. Just leave it alone, right? Just if it's by default, I think it's at like this. Just hit start. And just play the shit and leave it alone, right? You know, just don't mess with it. So as you're playing your video, you just focus on him, right? And the deal with that was that I can just basically make myself available to help him out whenever he needed me, right? He can throw whatever video he wants. If we go to Vegas or Taiwan, either way, it's just... All right, so after playing that for a while, basically it's telling me that I'm past negative 16, right? That's at negative 11, right? So that's pretty high. We want to be underneath it or close to negative 16, right? Okay, so this is where things can get a little confusing, and like this is where I just had a hard time understanding, right? And your audio meters, right? This is the loudness. I set it to be at negative 16, right? Because that's the target that we want to hit loudness-wise. Now, if I deselect absolute scale, it's gonna go down here to 0, right? Because like I said, I just didn't want to fucking work in construction, do like the Walgreens thing. Now this is where this kind of be confusing, right? Because here down in the meters, you have 0, right? Anymore, that just sucked ass. And also like by him giving me like you know, consistent amount of money every month. All right, so like the meters are here as saying 0, right? And it looks like we're being underneath 0. But up here in the loudness, it's saying that we're going over 0, right? I'm able to like budget myself for my rent, my gas, and you know, pay my bills and all the other stuff, right? So okay, saying here the integrated, which is like the overall average of loudness, is +3. That means it's like it's going over 3 decibels from the loudness mark that we want, which is negative 16, right? Remember, this meter is measuring the overall loudness of your audio, right? Not volume. That's what these guys here on the side are for. These are measuring volume. What we want to do is that we want to measure the overall loudness of the video, right? This is what this meter does. It's just measuring the overall loudness of the audio, right? So if we go back to absolute scale, again, I want to be at negative 16, and it's telling me that this thing is too loud. So we can right click, normalize audio. Let's just say do like a -4. Now if I play this back. For me, honestly, being paid salary works for me, right? Instead of paying per video, right? So I'm still a little too loud, so I can I can click and drag the handle here to like reduce the audio. If you are in a situation where you want to know if you want to be paid you want to charge per video. Okay, so I'm getting closer to like the overall target that YouTube wants, right? -14, but again, I want to be at -16, right? Because once I start adding compression and maybe music and all that stuff, it's gonna make the video a little bit loud, right? So I can just crank this down a bit more and hit play. Maybe I work with him on one big project every other month or something like that, then that's totally different, right? And that'll be per project, right? That'll probably make more sense, right? But working with Paul, it works with me, right? Also, like, all right, so now we're back in the integrated, which is -16. This is like the target area that we want, the overall loudness of the video, right? So yeah, I know it sounds confusing. I know it's maybe new to you guys if you're not familiar with this, but yeah, loudness measuring is completely different than volume measuring, right? So yeah, just you guys can do some more research if you guys want. Just look up like LUFS, LUFs for YouTube, and they wanted to be at -14. But in my case, I want to be at -16. That way, like if I get past this by any chance, then like I have some headspace. That way, like that way my audio doesn't get reduced like it happened here, right? It got reduced from 100% to 93 because I was too loud, right? Even though it says -16, in reality, it's a 0. I know it's confusing as shit, but the loudness is basically at 0, even though like the setting that we put for Fairlight is -16. That's the measurement of the LUFS, the LUF, right? But when like measuring the audio meter, it's a 0. So when you're watching this on YouTube, that's basically where you're measuring from, like the 0 point, right? And it's saying here that he's -13 from that loudness point, from being like just like the right amount of volume. So in this case, he's very low.
But in terms of streaming stuff, you could just set it up, point it at yourself, make it white or the...
Alright, I'm trying not to get copyrighted. I'll do one more video, and this is from Post, right? Alright, same shit, right? So, volume is at 100%, normalized is 100%. Yeah, YouTube does not increase the volume of your videos, right? When it's too loud, it reduced it like it did in my video, like I showed you, right? But in this case, his content loudness, it's at -11. So that means he can go up, he can boost his audio to like by 10 decibels, so it can be closer to like that 0 mark. That way, like when you listen to the video, you're not cranking up the volume on your headphones, right?
I'm able to clear more of the map and get more information because I'm going far.
See, it's just like -12, close to like what Noko here has on his videos, right? And the deal with that was that I can just basically make myself available to help him out whenever... Alright, so you can see like the volume levels are around here where the -12 mark is at. So that's basically what I'm trying to show you, is that the normalization from like videos say from Noko and also from Coalition Gaming, they're down here. You have space to increase the volume to 0. Now again, don't get confused. Just because it says 0, that does not mean this does not have a value. If I go back to the absolute scale, it goes to a -14 or -16, depending what your Fairlight values are at, right? I'm just gonna go back to 16. Hit OK, so that's 16, right? So if I play this, he needed me, right? He can throw whatever video he wants. If we go to Vegas or Taiwan, either way, it'll just be like the same flat rate, right? Yeah, so like I just changed the values from 14 to 16 and then went from like 12 down to -24, right? So that just shows you basically how important setting like the loudness levels is correctly can help you out, right? So I'm gonna creep this up a bit. Yeah, I'll go in Sunday night, Monday morning, I'll get off work and then I'll just get ready and I go help my dad on Monday morning to help him out. Alright, so when you start seeing the yellow number, that pretty much means you're right on the money, right? So that's the thing you want to keep in mind, right? So depending on where you're what values this, remember the target loudness level, YouTube wants it to be at -14, right? I'm just doing it at -16, just give me a little like a bit of like headroom in case I spike, right? So my my video doesn't get like reduced in volume a bit, right? Just like keep that in mind. So anyways, there you go. It's hopefully it's not that long of a video, but I just wanted to basically show you what I learned, right? And like trying to like make sure I can explain it in a manner that helped me out to understand, right? Because it's totally different, right? So anyways, that's all I have to say. Fuck, my throat hurts from talking. QR codes on the side if you want to buy me a coffee if this video is helpful. Please do. If you guys can't, no problem. Just leave a comment and like and all the good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one, right? Thanks for hanging out with me for a bit. Take care and peace.